Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today on this episode, we're driving back from Minnesota. We just fished the wonderful Dick Hiley Bass Classic on the Mississippi River out of Wabasha, Minnesota, on pools 4 and 5. And we had a blast. I just, I did a video yesterday about, how awesome that tournament was and how special it was and how it was way more than a regular fishing tournament. It was a fundraising opportunity that just they did a great job. $852,000 raised for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Incredible, absolutely incredible. But I wanted to talk to you guys about the fishing on this video a little bit more. Because I got the question asked by a lot of the guys that were fishing the event, because pretty much everybody there has been fishing the event for a long time and also fishes the Mississippi River and those pools very often. But, I just showed up to fish the event with my buddy Scott Kenninger, who does live in La Crosse, but he's really never fished pools 4 and 5. And so neither of us really knew it. And Scott doesn't get to get out as much and fish, but we just wanted to have a good time. But at the same time, since I'm not fishing tournaments this year, getting out and being able to have an opportunity to fish a tournament, I wanted to pour some gas on this thing and try to do well. And we ended up, having a lot of fun. The first day was a great day. But because we just didn't, in the 4.5 hours of practice, we just didn't have a whole lot lined up. We just didn't have a whole lot of backup. So we burned it down the first day, along with several other guys that finished in the top. The areas that we found, the 2 areas that we found, and we just had a hard time yesterday and only caught 4 fish. But I got the question asked, how do you come up here and find fish without ever getting on the river and without knowing this fishery? And I would say that more guys were curious about that because river fishing on the Mississippi River or the upper Mississippi River, just like it is for most river systems, is way different than just visiting a lake like Chickamauga or something like that. On Lake Chickamauga and most reservoirs and most lakes, you can run around at will and find fish pretty quickly because navigation's not a major issue for most lakes. But on the Mississippi River, man, it is the biggest factor is how much time is wasted, idling into areas and figuring out where you can and cannot run and, getting stuck on sandbars and all that stuff, fighting against the strong currents. So it really did limit our time on the water. But I wanted to talk about kind of some of my process for breaking down fisheries like this or really anywhere. So the first thing that I want to kind of drive home for everybody that's curious on how to find fish quicker on new fisheries is you have to take into account who you are as a fisherman and what type of fishing that you like to do. And first off, I'm sorry that I'm not looking at the camera while talking. Obviously, I'm driving, so safety is first and foremost. So I'm not going to be looking at the camera at all. But you have to know who you are as a fisherman, what your strengths are, and what your wheelhouse is. And I think that is the most important thing whenever you're going to any fishery. If you're a really killer finesse fisherman, that's how you like to fish, and that's what you're best at, you need to figure out the areas that are going to allow you to do that, where you can find clearer water, you can use the lighter line, and those sort of things. Those are all really important. I'm going to stop talking for a second here while I go through this construction area. But yeah, you got to find the locations that are going to be conducive to your style of fishing. I think so many people, and I did a video recently about some of the mistakes that people make when they go to a new lake. And that to me is like the biggest one, is they forget about what brought them to the point that they're at, their previous experiences, and what they do well and what they don't do well. And if you don't stay in your lane, you're really going to reduce the amount of momentum that you get. You know, I'm not going to say that I don't fish, you know, outside of my strengths in a tournament. There's sometimes where I see an opportunity to do something different that I really haven't done before, but it never really starts with me, you know, starting out with a certain technique that I've never started or fished with, or that I'm not confident in. It always starts with me doing something that I am supremely confident in, and then once I start getting some momentum, I start getting some bites, I start recognizing what the fish are doing and what kind of patterns are prevailing. That's when I can start roaming around and doing some other things, experimenting, you know, getting creative. And sometimes that leads me to fishing the way that you know, other guys do. But because I started out from a perspective of already, you know, doing what I enjoy doing, I have confidence built up. But if you start out fishing a fishery, start out in areas you're not comfortable with, and start out fishing techniques that you're not comfortable with, you start out in a position of lack of confidence. And going from lack of confidence to confidence is very important, and it's the exact opposite of what I think is the right way to approach things. So, for instance, in this tournament, I ended up looking for areas, and this is kind of also a key part, because, you know, staying in your wheelhouse is great, doing things that you're confident in is great, but if it doesn't intersect with the seasonal pattern, that's also a big issue. So for me, I'm a shallow water power fisherman. I love fishing visually, you know, visible targets, fish on the beds, things like that. I'm not a big sight fisherman as far as fish on the beds, but I like fishing for bed fish, you know, and targeting things in kind of, you know, areas where I can make casts to likely areas that the fish are bedding, things like that. So with that in mind, I looked at the seasonal patterns. You know, I was kind of tipped off by, you know, my buddy Scott, and I talked to Matt Steffen a little bit, and they're like, yeah, this could be a tournament where they start spawning. So to begin with, I really started looking on satellite imagery. There was a place that both Matt Steffen and I kind of agreed looked really good, and one of the things that I always look for in areas to start with on a fishery is a area that is representative of the entire lake or river system as a whole. And what I mean by that is areas that have a lot of different things going for them that you see across the whole system. In this case, it was an area that, number one, had some flow in it, but it also had a lot of still water, so it was protected from a lot of the current, which meant that the fish could get out of the current, and it was a really good area for the fish to create their beds and to spawn in. It also had a line of docks, which not a lot of areas on the river have docks. It had deeper water, it had shallower water, had a ton of expansive grass flats with hard bottom on it. It had these man-made islands on it. It had one area that had a huge dredged out hole. Obviously, if you fish pools 5 and 4, you probably know what I'm describing, the area that I'm describing. It had all of those different things all in this one area. Had pretty clear water. So overall, that area was representative of the lake as a whole, because it had sand drops, it had, you know, all the different types of cover that you would see all throughout the system, but all in one area. Okay, so that is a big key. Like last year, a great example would be going down to Toledo Bend. Toledo Bend is absolutely you know, full of a variety of cover and structure, but you don't generally find everything that the lake offers in one area. Usually areas have one or two of those ingredients, but they don't have everything. They may not have docks, they may not have cypress trees, they may not have lots of grass, they may not have flats, they may not have creek channels, humps, points, whatever like that. So when I went there last year, I picked one creek that had all of those things, very plentiful. There was a lot going on. It was very diverse in the scope of the type of cover and structure that it had. And whenever you do that, you allow yourself to be very flexible, while you're breaking it apart. You don't have to travel long distances to go test if they're on docks. You don't have to go long distances to go offshore and start idling around some creek channels or offshore structure. You don't have to go far to test all these different things, cypress trees, for instance. So I look for areas that represent everything that a lake has, and that allows me to, maybe I don't end up fishing that area during the tournament, but that allows me to test what the fish are up to. And so I can kind of apply what I've learned in that one area, that test area, across the lake, okay? And so it's just an area where you start to gain momentum. All right, so I guess to kind of wrap everything up in a neat little bow, really I think the keys to success on new fisheries are, number one, approaching the fishery based on your skill set and your strengths. Okay, and that means fishing the things that you enjoy fishing, and also keying in on the type of structure and cover that you feel familiar with. And then you need to really pay attention to the seasonal pattern, and where the seasonal pattern intersects your wheelhouse, the things that you do well, that's where you want to fish. Okay, those are the areas, those are the scenarios that you want to fish. And then finally, I think that it's really a good idea to pick an area of the lake that represents the lake as a whole and has all those different ingredients that you feel comfortable with within that one area, and then expand from there. You may find where you want to fish a tournament in that area, or you may be able to figure out, hey, they're on docks, let's go ahead and run docks in other parts of the lake. Okay, so anyways, guys, I just wanted to get on here and talk about some of the processes that I have for breaking down new fisheries, because it seemed like Scott and I landed on two really killer areas, and we did it without any previous knowledge of the fishery. Matt Steffen had really never fished that pool ever before, and so he didn't have any knowledge of those areas when I talked to him on the phone. And so we really did not get keyed on to any of these well-known areas, because we knew that there was fish there. It just looked good, and it was just it looked like some place that we would want to fish. So anyways, guys, that's one of the or some of the key processes that I go through for tournament fishing on new waters. Let me know what your key processes are for tournament fishing. And finally, to close this out, we always talk about ways that you can support this channel, and one of the key ways to support Sonar Fishing that is going to be a key part of this channel for many years to come is to go visit the Dick Hiley website. I'm going to put that in the description below, link to that. Great tournament, lots of fun for a phenomenal cause, obviously St. Jude. And so we're going to be doing a lot of fundraising this year in preparation for the 2025 Dick Hiley Bass Classic. And so I just want you guys to be involved in that, and I appreciate any help that you give me to donate or raise funds or spread the word. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. I'm going to see you out on the water. Make sure you trust the process.